Good afternoon. My name is Najla Burjini, and my presentation today is going to be about teacher involvement in the curriculum development in Finland during the COVID-19 school closures. I will start with the general overview of the topic. I will move next to the aim of the study. I will explain main concepts, theories, and findings, and then I will finish with recommendations and limitations. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused the largest disruption of education in history, having already had a near-universal impact on learners and teachers around the world. From pre-primary to secondary schools, technical and vocational education and training institutions, universities, adult learning, and skill development establishments. By mid-April 2020, 40% of learners worldwide were affected by the pandemic, representing 1.6 billion children and youth from primary to higher education in 200 countries. Countries have opted for different delivery ways of teaching. Along with online learning, there was teaching through radio shows, television shows, or basic paper-based learning. The purpose of this presentation is to explore teachers' participation in curriculum development in Finland before and during the pandemic. It is commonly known that teachers have been closely involved in developing the national curricula in Finland in various ways. Teachers' involvement in curriculum design and implementation has been an immense help with building the national curriculum multidimensional content. Teachers in Finland are generally satisfied with their jobs. Teachers have stated that their dedication to working with children, professional freedom, and supportive colleagues have kept them in the profession. The sudden transition to the emergency remote school seemed to go without major problems in Finland, and 70% of teachers who participated in the inquiry conducted by OAJ, the trade union of education in Finland, stated that the organizing of teaching was generally working well. Despite that, from the beginning, there were differences in how schools, teachers, students, and their families experienced this transition, as some schools and homes were better prepared for the move to digital learning than others. 2 research papers were selected to investigate the topic. Both studies looked into Finnish teachers' participation in local curriculum development and relied on interviews as the primary method used to gather empirical data. While Heikkilä's paper was published right before the pandemic, Taipale's master thesis was published in January 2021. In Finland, teachers have a great level of pedagogical autonomy in how they implement the national curriculum. This is generally seen as one of the reasons for higher learning outcomes in Finland. Teachers decide how to teach the shared content provided by the curriculum, make decisions, take a leadership role in their work, and make plans in different kinds of situations and contexts within the framework of the curriculum and regulations. Professional and moral responsibilities are strong among Finnish teachers, where their professionalism develops through 5 years of academic education and additional training along with their career. One aspect that was thoroughly investigated was teachers' perspectives on their own work experiences during the school closures due to the pandemic. The main findings were as follows. Innumerable benefits surged from the experience, such as the development of technology skills of students and teachers when digital tools were utilized now more than ever before in school. Other benefits that the teachers perceived were the development of individual working skills of students, where some were even seen as benefiting from the opportunity to study at their own pace and without the social pressure of school environment. Challenges perceived included the lack of teacher and peer support for students, along with the lack of spontaneity of face-to-face interaction. Curriculum work is considered a way of teachers to develop professionally, to enhance their curriculum knowledge and influence their everyday practices, which can contribute to their enjoyment of their pedagogical work and positively affect quality implementation of the curriculum. The Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has described the curricula in Finland not only as a school policy, but also as a tool with which teachers can develop their own pedagogical practices. During teacher training, 4 didactic competencies that teachers need in their work are developed as the following. The first basic skill relates to instruction-based activity, which takes place preferably in a classroom situation and refers to the teacher's interaction with students expressed through a variety of teaching methods. The second competence is the individual teacher's ongoing planning and reflection of his or her own teaching, during which the teacher is not in contact with the teacher activity, but focuses on intentions about content, sequencing, and time management, for example, which then take the form of daily plans for teaching. The third competence consists of reflections on the collective, collaborative, and continuous processes surrounding curriculum-related activities taking place in schools, and these can be related to the Finnish curriculum's decentralized system. Fourth is the competence that highlights collective reflection as a verbal activity, and it represents both an interaction and internalization of a profession-related common language. Such language is evoked from theoretical and research-related discourse about education, but is operationalized by the teacher's own understanding in relation to other classroom activities. Main results of the studies have highlighted that the most important factors for effective teacher involvements are the participation of teachers in curriculum design and development mainly relates to the selection, encouragement, and implementation of leadership in the process and how time is used in relation to teacher involvement. The nature of teachers' work is very time-bound. Therefore, effective time planning also affects teachers' participation. Unrealistic deadlines and insufficient time use consistently creates frustration and resignation. Results have also shown that principals must be able to exercise both change and process management of teachers. As the study was carried in government schools, principals are appointed by the municipality. Principals are required to act as educational leaders, however, due to contextual change of the curriculum, this needs changes regarding methods and content. This might majorly affect teachers' effective participation and their feelings of inclusion. Therefore, the principal plays a major role in teachers' participation. These aspects are interrelated and might affect the teacher's participation accordingly. A school may, for example, be given significant time by the municipality but lack principal leadership, which can result in confusion and despair. Other factors such as the expertise and power of teachers appointed in leading positions might be important variables as well. The main research question of the second study was, what were the primary school teachers' experiences of teaching during the emergency remote school, ERS, period due to the COVID-19 crisis in one Finnish city in spring 2020. To support the main question, further sub-questions were asked about practices, challenges, and positive aspects surging from the emergency remote school. The focus was on how did the teachers organize teaching and practice at different grade levels during the emergency remote school period. Through the detailed description of different methods and procedures the teachers applied during the ERS, it was obvious that they were accorded a great flexibility in their usage of digital platforms and other teaching tools. Google Meet was the main tool that the council instructed to be used for keeping in contact with students. However, some teachers use Classroom as a platform for organizing daily schoolwork. A good feature of the Classroom was considered to be that it was easy and efficient to check the return tasks. This could have given teachers the feeling of having their students under their control, as they would know exactly who had returned their tasks and who had not. All of the participants reported that using these web-based services was easy, even if they had not used them before. The application that caused most confusion amongst teachers on whether to be used with students or not was WhatsApp. The main reason was that teachers were not provided work phones and did not prefer to share their personal numbers with students. Teachers who did use WhatsApp with their students complained that it did not help with task submission as it was often beyond deadlines, and that the constant messaging about personal or non-school related issues on the groups was annoying and needed teacher intervention to put some rules. On the other hand, some teachers claimed that the positives of using WhatsApp outnumbered the negatives in terms of differentiating tasks for students, especially the younger ones, bonding and building a stronger rapport outside the classroom, and evaluating their progress. Different e-learning platforms were used by teachers, mainly Sanoma Pro for its convenience in allowing the teacher to share their screen with students and explain at the same time, Vil for the possibility of giving immediate feedback to the learner without adding extra work on the teacher, and Wulma for announcing the daily schedule for their classes. Daily classes seem to have a regular structure as other schools that applied online learning during the closure of schools. It was important that the tasks of the day were discussed and the teacher made sure that everyone knew what was expected from them on that day. Due to the insufficiency of time, 2 subjects were prioritized, which are teaching Finnish language and mathematics skills, because those 2 subjects were in the center of attention for young students, as these were the skills that were considered the most important to achieve in the early school years, along with foreign languages for older students. Whereas some teachers complained that mathematics was the hardest to teach online due to geometry, which was hard to transfer to digital format for teaching, other subjects were not included in the planning of video conferences classes because of their nature, for religion needed discussion, for example. Also, PE, arts and music were the subjects where teachers struggled most. Teachers' methods varied as some teachers experienced that traditional teacher-directed learning was reduced as students are now required to independently gather information rather than being given teacher-directed lessons, whereas other teachers have seen traditional teaching as the best way to teach in the ERS due to difficulty of implementing new techniques with the varying conditions students lived in. The main challenges that teachers complained about was the availability of materials to students equally and the excessive parental involvement. The selection of both studies allowed the complementarity to study teachers' participation in curriculum development in Finland before and during the pandemic. Based on the analysis of the results, the strength of the Finnish curriculum seems to reside in the concept of pedagogical autonomy. It was illustrated through some teachers' answers that taking care of their personal life and well-being was a priority. Further issues to be investigated would be whether Finland is leading in online learning, as it seems that it does have the prerequisites to, and more specifically whether ERS has worked the same in public and private schooling, or if there was any contrast. Limitations to the studies might be their recency, as to this date, the data to study the effect of suspension of face-to-face learning has been limited. References are as follows. And thank you very much for your attention.